Welcome to the show.
Blog Talk Radio.
All are welcome here. No security breaches. Some information about the Russian probe. I'm going to do my introduction second because this is kind of a long segment right here. Now, it's a webinar about Guccifer, the DNC Hack, and Fancy Bears, the two organizations that claimed responsibility for hacking the DNC and other government agencies.
Before we do that, we're going to dig in a little bit more to the bears. So we'll start with Fancy Bear, which is the nickname that CrowdStrike has given to the APT group suspected of being in association with the GRU, Russia's primary military intelligence service. There is no centralized naming system for these threat actors, and other information security companies call the same group by other names, such as APT28 or Sophosy, a name derived from a family of malware that this group commonly uses. We're going to use Fancy Bear here since we're referencing CrowdStrike's analysis, and it means that I get to use a picture of a bear with a monocle and a bow tie in my briefing, and let's be honest, that's not something you get to do every day. Fancy Bear has been active since the mid-2000s and has targeted defense ministries and military victims extensively. It has been linked to intrusions into the German parliament, or Bundestag, and France's TV5 Milan station in April of 2015. It has a wide range of custom implants that it uses, including Sophosy, X-Agent, and X-Tunnel. These tools are not widely available. They're not commodity tools, and so seeing them deployed against a network is a strong indicator of Fancy Bear's fingerprints or paw prints, as opposed to some other threat actor. Fancy Bear often tries to gain access to networks by stealing their victims' credentials, and they do this by spoofing their web-based email services. That tactic is used by a number of threat actors, and although it's simple, they do it because it works. So Fancy Bear breached the DNC in April of 2016, right close to the time that DNC officials that something realized that something was amiss. In the breach, Fancy Bear deployed X-agent malware with capabilities to do remote command execution, file transmission, and key logging. It was executed via run DLL32 commands. In addition, Fancy Bear's X-tunnel network tunneling tool was also used to execute remote commands. So both tools were deployed via REMCOM, an open-source replacement for PSExec available from GitHub, and they also engaged in a number of anti-forensic analysis measures, such as periodic event log clearing and resetting timestamps on files. Those measures are designed to cover an adversary's tracks when incident responders are trying to piece together the details of a breach. Next, take a look at Cozy Bear, also known as Cozy Duke or APT-29 within the information security community. Cozy Bear successfully infiltrated the unclassified networks of the White House, the State Department, and the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff last year. But their targets are pretty wide-ranging and go well outside the U.S. government, and include organizations across the defense, energy, financial, and insurance industries, just to name a few. So as opposed to stealing email credentials via the webmail page, Cozy Bear prefers broadly targeted spearfish campaigns that typically include web links to a malicious dropper. Again, a tactic that is used because it works so well. Cozy Bear then uses a number of sophisticated remote access tools. These tools leverage extensive anti-analysis techniques to ensure that the sample is not being analyzed in a sandbox or on a virtual machine, i.e. by somebody who's trying.
I'm going to cut to my notes now. So that was just a little bit of exposure to Fancy Bear and Cozy Bear, two different organizations in Russia that are labeled as Advanced Persistent Threats, APTs. Now, I just want to do an overall summary, and then I'm going to pull Don and Albert in. Guccifer 2.0 was an individual who claimed responsibility for hacking the DNC in June of 2016 after the New York Times released two ground strike organizations called Fancy Bear and Cozy Bear as the threat. Fancy Bear has been known to be affiliated with the GRU, which is the secret military arm of Russia, and they've done extensive targeting of defense ministries around the world, including the German Bundestag, which is their federal, like their federal legislature, similar to our Congress, and the French TV5 Monde. What they do is they spoof email services. Now, I'll just give you a few examples, and then I'm going to go into my American notes. They implant something similar to a virus, and they use an external tool to infiltrate the networks, and they steal victims' credentials by putting malicious attachments to emails. They do remote command execution where they do log clearing and they clear time date stamps in people's computer, which screws up their whatever you call it. Anyways, so I just want to jump back to another introduction that I was going to do. We do not, the weight of this show depends on our contribution tonight and how we are going to formulate our dialogue, because there's three ways that Robert Mueller is trying to prove that the Trump administration allowed collusion with the Russians, and how the Russians did it on their own as well. They tried to provide disinformation spread across the internet, including Facebook, about the election, which was not true. They also tried to breach election data in several key states, and they also hacked the DNC and John Podesta's, and then turned those emails over to WikiLeaks. Now, that provided an imbalance because it was a disadvantage for the Democrats, because all that information was released, but nothing on the Republican. Also, Paul Manafort, who was one of the key so-called volunteers in the Trump campaign, had up to $60 million in business dealings with a Russian oligarch. And let me grab his name. His name was Oleg DeriPaska. And he had a $26 million loan through the country of Cypress with this oligarch, and he also had $60 million in trades. There was also a Russian national named Konstantin Kilmanik, and his nickname was Kostya, who controlled foreign bank accounts in these dealings with Davis Manafort partners, in which Rick Gates was employed. Now, Rick Gates and both Paul Manafort were summoned by the federal court, and both these individuals who worked for Davis Manafort had offices in Kiev, Moscow, and the Ukraine. The reason why that's important is because they're still under house arrest, and they still have limited freedom, and they're under the bondage of the government until this Russian probe is over and starts in a court proceeding. Also, I just want to briefly mention two other things. Donald Trump Jr. and George Papadopoulos, who is also an energy lawyer who was involved with the Trump campaign, they met with Russians 2 times before June of 2016, and they knew about damaging information about Hillary Clinton long before the public found out on June 14, 2016. Also, the Russian groups Fancy Bear and Cozy Bear also have been known to, they've infiltrated the Danish defense, internet, concealed and confidential information, and they also posed a threat to the English electricity grid. And with that, I'll pull in my partners. I'm going to pull in Albert first because he's been waiting the longest, and then Don, and then Ben. Good evening, Albert. How's it going?
Oh, not much. Just chilling.
Hi, Don.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Albert. Hi, Ben.
Oh, by the way, Albert is probably going to have a guest call tonight named Chuck, and he's a local arm who is involved in politics and sometimes the Democratic Party. So I just give you guys fair warning on that. And also, before I pull Ben in, he sent me this really long video about how Guccifer claimed to be the sole hacker in the DNC, but I didn't really get deep enough into the video to establish an opinion on it. So with that, hi, Ben, we'll bring you in. How you doing?
Hello. Pretty good. How are you?
So in my 2-hour tutorial of the Russian probe, the only thing that I really found that was substantial was that this Papadopoulos character that I don't know much about, his arrest at the Dulles airport was concealed by news agencies or maybe even the government for 3 months. He was arrested in July of last year, and he didn't get it didn't make the news until October of last year. And then I didn't know much about Paul Manafort's dealing with the Russian oligarch. And also, a lot of the stuff the Trump White House knew about regarding connections with the Russians way before the general public knew about it, including the meeting with Donald Trump Jr. and the Russian lawyer. So do you guys have any light to shed on this topic?
Yeah, just to say that it hasn't been proven yet that Russia did anything to affect our election.
Yeah, you might have missed the first part of my segment, but they did infiltrate the Department of Defense in Denmark. They also infiltrated in the last 3 years the German Bundestag and some arm of the French TV5 Monde. I think that must be television or something. But the video you sent me made it sound like this lady was trying to advocate for that this whole Russian probe was bullshit.
Yeah,
Is that what you were trying to advocate to me, Ben?
I didn't get a chance to rewatch that. I watched it once, but I wanted to go back through and take notes. because there was so much
Okay.
information in that. I didn't get a chance to do that. I had to work today, but I just thought you'd think it's interesting.
Well, I did listen to part of it, but her introduction was a little messy, and I couldn't really get into the meat and potatoes of it, so I changed to another video. Don, do you have any comment, or Albert?
I really don't have much of a comment. If the lawyers and the Democratic Party and the Freedom Party for the Republicans can't find any dirt on a person they want out so badly, or so they say, then there must not have been any collusion, because this is ridiculous for a whole year to pass by without any indictments or hardly any cases. Paul Manafort,
they're still under house arrest, though, and they can only leave the house for medical appointments, to meet with their lawyer, or religious services. That's
what house arrest is. And for the most part, I mean, if the guy, president, can, marry a woman and have her, just for the green card, that's ridiculous. But
you're talking about Trump and Melania?
Yeah, it's not ridiculous.
Melania's dumb, because Melania she didn't even write her own letter when she was out speaking. The one she started reading was the same one. What's it called?
Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama.
Yeah. Michelle Obama read. So it was, that just proves that they're just idiots. And
I feel kind of bad for her about that, though.
Nobody does their job. That's the whole point. Nobody in our leadership, and nobody in general, does their job. That's why we have so many jobs that are offshore and companies going offshore, because people not only do their jobs, but do their jobs at dirt cheap. And we have gotten so complacent and privileged that we here in America depend on our jobs being done by I don't want to
better be careful with your words here.
Now,
you know what? I wanted to mention something to Albert. Less than a week ago, it was reported that Trump paid $130,000 to a porn star through his lawyers for hush money, and Melania refused to celebrate her wedding anniversary with him.
They all do it. They all do it.
To extend on that Russian involvement and whatnot, because I remember during the election when Hillary lost and Hillary blamed it on fake news, and then and then all of a sudden when Donald Trump won, all this stuff came up about the Russia's involvement.
She didn't blame it on fake news.
Yeah, she said it with her own. Hillary Clinton literally said it.
I think she said, her words were, "It's a vast right-wing conspiracy," and then she also talked about people being deplorables.
The Bill Clinton, when the Monica Lewinsky thing came out, she told the press that it was a vast right-wing conspiracy because her own husband didn't tell her the truth. And that was years ago. It had nothing to do with this last election.
Oh, well, yeah.
I do.
She did say deplorables.
Talking about fake news. I mean, she didn't intentionally say. She didn't say "Oh, it's fake news' fault because I didn't win." She didn't say that. But I do remember her speaking, and I do remember her talking about fake news, and it was like she didn't say it, but it was like she was blaming it on the fake news.
Oh, was that her that came up with alternative facts?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well,
it's hard to say.
She did mention the Russian investigation. A lot of people get it mixed up. They call it the Russian hack. People are saying, "Oh, the Russians hacked this election. That's why Donald Trump won." No, there was what they're trying to say was that Russia actively did something to change the election. But the hack was a totally different thing. The DNC got hacked, and John Podesta and all them sick people got found out. All the stuff that they were saying back and forth to each other got showed to people. And I think people don't even realize what the heck was being said. Like, why did Seth Rich die? And why was it such a coincidence?
One of the websites I looked on today said it was sleazy. The way they communicated with each other. To send an email that says we need to make an example of this leaker, and then to have Seth Rich be killed right after that, and Sean Lucas was murdered. They also made a bad remark about Latinos. They said we have to toss the salad bowl or the taco bowl or something like that.
Yeah,
the Russians, trying to recruit Latino voters.
How did the Russians become a bad guy in this situation? Did anybody read this stuff?
Well, one news agency today said it was lopsided because no one ever leaked anything about the Republicans.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, United States and Russia, I mean, we know the U.S. and the Russia don't play well together. All those proxy wars and, and all of that political pushing on both sides. I mean, we all. I mean, there's also American spies on the Russian side also trying to, mess with their stuff too. But the thing that doesn't make sense. Of course, Russia do have spies. Of course, I mean, we know that. But I mean, to mess with the elections in that way, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And you can't understand. I can't understand why Russia would do that in the first place. I mean, what benefit would they gain anyways? From that,
Well, the only thing that I saw legitimate tonight, Albert, was that Michael Flynn had dealings with the Russians, and he got canned from the Trump administration. Paul Manafort had intimate dealings with Russians, including business deals, and Donald Trump Jr. was willing to take information from the Russians. And there's a law that says you cannot take any type of gift or object of value from foreign governments regarding election.
Right, but the thing that people don't understand, nobody's asking what countries did Hillary deal with. She had ties to Ukraine. She had ties to Qatar. How many of these countries that we don't talk about donated to the Clinton Foundation just to get around the law? Nobody's asking that. They're pointing fingers at Russia because she actually double-crossed the Russians. So she's trying to build her base to be anti-Russia. So if they ever retaliate against her,
double-cross them again?
Well, the big donors
she never paid
during her election was Comcast and Time Warner Cable. They donated a lot of money to Hillary Clinton, even the Teachers Foundation.
Time Warner Cable did?
Yeah, Comcast was one of the biggest, donors to the Hillary's election, during Hillary's election at least, and Time Warner Cable. I'm pretty sure you can look that up. I remember looking at that.
Okay, I can look it up while you guys are talking. Yay, Time Warner Cable.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have anything else tonight? Because everybody kind of seems like they're in a blank stare mode.
One of those Sundays, right?
A deer in the headlights.
Well,
all I know is that you should keep doing what you're doing on the audio, on your clips, because this was the best audio I think I've ever heard.
Yeah,
guess
and I want
what?
to say something.
I can tell you why, Don. I have a speaker attached to my laptop, and it's 3 times the sound that my other clips normally are.
Yeah, and I want to say something too, that unlike other independent podcasts or independent political debates or shows, usually when you watch a political debate, like let's just say the Young Turks or even InfoWars, like all the people that work for, like, to say the main host, they all have the same pretty much they all have the same, the same agreements. You know, if you watch the Young Turks, you see all the employees that work for the main cast, they all agree with the main boss or whatever, or the main host right here. But right here, we all have our differences. And whoever's listening, you can hear that, you know, we are completely different, and we don't always agree with the main host, and we always show our differences, and we're not like other independent shows where, you know, like where we all try to please the main host and have the same mindset as the main host. We're all completely different here.
Editor here. There's no master.
There's no boss. Yeah, there's no boss right here. We don't have a boss. We just, you know, we share.
None of us kiss a ring.
You guys better be careful talking to James.
Yeah. But that's a good thing, because there's no boss like other independent ones, you know, independent podcasts or shows. You know, Jane doesn't treat us like a boss. We have our own thoughts and opinions. That's why it makes us. That's why I think this show is really unique, because you know, the way we share our own completely different opinions. You know, you can't get that anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, well, some people are built to stay in an echo chamber. People kind of gravitate towards what they're built for, and you can see that a lot. I mean, people will kind of gravitate towards like-minded people a lot of times, and other people can reach across. It's the people that can actually connect with somebody who's on another spectrum politically. Those are the kind of people that have ideas that both sides like.
Ben, Albert's caller is on the line, somebody from the 336, but before I let him on, I was just going to let you know, Hillary's top 10 corporate donors, I couldn't find the Time Warner one. Paloma Partners, $21 million. Pritzker Group, $16 million. Renaissance Technologies, $16 million. Saban Capital, $12 million. Newsweb Corp, $11 million. Soros Fund Management, $10 million. Asana, $6 million. Slim Fast Foods, $6 million. And Lone Pipe Capital, $5 million. Okay, I'm going to pull in this caller.
And she still couldn't win.
I shouldn't have left the gap in.
That's because Koch brothers put in $60 million. So that far exceeded all those little millions.
They didn't.
Well,
they didn't
you're
want
on the
Trump.
line.
The Koch brothers
Wait,
are backing
you guys,
Evan McMullen.
They're dirty
Did
money.
you realize that, Don?
I know.
Go ahead.
The Koch brothers did everything they could to help Evan McMullen win at the last minute. They were anti-Trump, so that doesn't work.
No, but it wasn't necessarily Trump.
During the election.
I just pulled the caller in and he hung up. So keep arguing.
Nobody's arguing.
Yeah.
We just talked about the first virtues of the show, and you're going to say arguing. What kind of host are you?
I'm the hostess with the mostest.
We know.
Oh, we have more YouTube. My friend recalibrated all the audio, and we have three more shows posted on YouTube, Flying Charm. So please go over there and click the links. I was also going to mention to Ben that the Carpenter and Joiners Union donated $5 million to Hillary, and the Laborers Union donated $4.7 million. And the Plumbers Pipefitter Union donated $4 million.
Because you're talking about a union that has basically most unions are Democrat, and they basically teach people to vote Democrat because they make them afraid to vote for anything that's bad for the union. So I can't show you a whole lot of carpenters and laborers around here that would have given money to
I could tell you
Hillary.
something. I live here I can tell you something. I live here in India, and I checked all my local cities from Palm Springs, Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage, Palm Desert, La Quinta, Indio, Mecca, Coachella Valley. and all these local cities around here, and none of this. The only thing we have is the Republican station and Democrat headquarters. But we have the Green Party is like, if you want to go to the Green Party's office, you have to drive 2 hours away just to reach them. Libertarian Party, they do have one just an hour away, but we just don't have, they don't have enough stations out there to reach people physically.
Right.
Yeah, I think those kind of parties are in major metropolitan areas like L.A., Chicago, New York.
Yeah. And only the Republicans and Democrats now, their stations are reachable. They're it's like a McDonald's. They're everywhere.
That's right,
true,
because those parties are basically, they never left the grassroots level. They basically pop up, and this following is the fringe people that are so anti-right and left that they never get enough votes to actually make a difference. They get blamed for taking votes away from one or the other all the time, because I think if those parties want to have anything to do with an election, what needs to happen is somebody from the inside needs to move, somebody respectable that has a huge following needs to move for a reason, and maybe they can take their base with them. But to have somebody spring up from the outside, it's never going to work.
The Green Party and the Libertarian Party have been around for years, and in a lot of places they are well established in certain parts of the country. But you're right, they're not that effective.
They put Gary Johnson against the Clinton machine and Donald Trump. He had no place in that battle. He wasn't even significant to be, the third candidate. And
they should have
blew
put Jesse Ventura.
They really blew it. I mean, Gary Johnson was like the most boring person you could have put against, ultimate destruction and, fire and fury fighting.
Even has a
with
boring
each other.
name.
Yeah, and then Jill Stein, she's over there hobnobbing with all the rich Russians.
Joe Stein was out there painting with a spray can on construction stuff.
Yep.
At the protest sites.
That's what kind of blew it for me. You don't run for president of the U.S. while you're vandalizing. That's just, I mean, it doesn't matter what she's trying to get across.
Albert got a hold of her. She was going to be on our show, but then she said something about she wouldn't do it, but I couldn't remember why. But I talked to her twice in a tweet, but it was Albert's idea.
Yeah, we did try to get her on, but nope.
She was really
I forgot
smart.
what yeah.
She's not important, but she's too important to be here for some reason. So yeah, but that's fine. We don't need her.
Well, she came out strong against Hillary too.
Yeah, we gave too much exposure to Hillary. I can't remember what her complaint was.
Well, she's
way back
she's a cute enough. She's a cute enough little laugh.
I remember you said it was the front page. You said that you didn't like the front page. It was because your front page had a picture of Hillary Clinton. I remember.
Yeah.
Well, Jill Stein is a pretty enough little lassie that they would pay her probably $20,000 to have sex in Donald Trump towers over there in Moscow.
That's unprofessional.
Of course.
You guys, whoever called our show and hung up was from North Carolina.
Yeah, I tell you, he wasn't from my area. Yeah, it wasn't.
Well, the thing is that I've been I had a text from John Fitzgerald Johnson, and a couple weeks ago, so he's possibly announcing his candidacy for 2020, and that might be him calling up.
Well, tell him to wait till March of 2019, because I also heard on the news today that the trial for Paul Manafort and Rick Gates is going to be in September of 2018, right before the midterm elections. The hearings, I should say. I don't think John Fitzgerald Johnson or anybody should announce their candidacy till February or March of next year. People aren't ready yet.
Yeah, if you announce it too early, it'll jump up just a little bit, but it'll quickly fall down, and you won't get that much, noticeable.
So, Ben, I'm surprised you don't have more arsenal on the Russian probe.
Oh, I'm just kind of tired of paying for it as a taxpayer. I mean, it's gone on so long. Trump's well within his rights to fire him and just be done with it.
Robert Mueller?
He's got that authority. Yeah, Trump can do that legally. But he's not going he hasn't, because it's already bad. I mean, everybody on the left just hates him more than any other president in the United States has ever been hated. So he's trying to reach across. He's trying to fix things. And
I think
firing
in an
Mueller would
independent
look bad.
authority, Clinton didn't have the authority to fire Ken Starr. I don't think they do have the authority.
He does.
Okay. Don, what's on your mind tonight?
I think he's trying to let it play out.
Okay, well, let it play.
It's costing us money, though.
Meanwhile, Cozy Bear is making us look bad.
Well, there's always the last two elections. There have been one was 40 minutes. This last one was 40 minutes. The other was about an hour and about an hour and 5 minutes in the elections with President Obama. That you had the election polls, the actual polling numbers stopped. They stopped, and that was where we had the Wisconsin and North Carolina votes that were, I think, taken. These machines are easily hacked. The election machines, once you place
without
that's
voter
only
ID.
Speculation, Don. You can't really say it.
Speculations on what these white leaders can do to make this a laughing stock. They are making our election system, they're making the contribution system a laughing stock.
I don't see how that's any more damaging than not having voter ID. Can you explain to me, Don, how requiring ID to vote as a citizen in the U.S. is discrimination?
It's not necessarily discrimination. It's vote suppression. You're acting like that everything is legal. You're acting like once something is put into law, everybody runs by the principles of whatever laws or new concepts and regulations. You're acting like once they get input, that everybody treats them and goes by them fairly. That's what we have laws for. That's what we have lawyers for. That's what we have the Supreme Court for. That's what we have other adjudication, administrative laws.
That wasn't an answer.
Albert and I featured a documentary called Hacking Democracy about how the Diebold voting machines were hacked during the second election for Bush Jr.
Yeah.
And they found a smoking gun letter that this one state would be taken care of by the Bush family by this one group that supported George Bush for the election.
Okay, so how would voter
laws
ID
are made to be broken?
Not fix that problem?
How would voters fix it?
No, how would voter ID not fix that problem?
Because
the documentary was more about glitches in the machine, accidental or on purpose.
It doesn't matter.
It showed it was Depot and ESNN were hacking the stuff, but it showed it was hacking the software. No matter like even the those damn things. When they printed out the voter count and you count the votes, it said exactly what it said on the receipt. But if you look into the software, it had a different number in there, and so if they were able to cheat without even people realize that the machines were cheating. They couldn't even tell by anybody. And that's the problem is that when you go to recount the votes, they'll just print you out a receipt and they'll hand you all the votes. And when you count the votes, they're going to be the same as the receipt, of course, as well, unless you miscount one bit or something. But it's going to be the same. So the thing is, it's in the software. You have to go in the software. And the thing is, those softwares by DNC and Debo are pretty much like not even the main, like the manager, the main CEO doesn't even know the code or anything. It's so top secret, So all we could do, and there is no independent sources that get to go in there and look at it on permission. So there's no way to know for sure, if it's true or not. We have found that they were cheating, and they said they fixed it supposedly with no proof. But all we can do is believe them.
Right, and there should be a hard copy.
Yes.
If you go and get a receipt, you get the yellow and pink slip. That's if we have to go back to that to be accurate, then fine.
Then let's do it.
I found the information.
Do you understand?
Diebold machines that were they were indicted in the 2004 presidential election for irregularities.
Well,
I can't open it right now. My computer's slow. You guys can keep talking, and I'll tell you in a minute.
We've got cases here in Nevada that is voter fraud, voter suppression. You can't have everybody showing their ID right now because it's not everybody's ID is different. People are moving. Not everybody's ID is different. That's what the strength of the Democrat vote is, immigration. Well, the Democrats are trying to do universal registration. If you can do universal registration, that pretty much guarantees
immigration down because under Barack Obama, we have the most deported people ever.
We also have a lot of imported people. He let in more Muslims than any other president too.
And he also let in those people from the shithole countries of Russia and the Baltics and England and France and Ireland too. Those shithole countries, they have the right. They didn't have the right to. What are you laughing about, James? If you want to talk about,
you called all the white countries shitholes.
Yeah, Norway. They're all shitholes.
The people with the superior gene pools of Finland, Sweden, and
they're the hairy knuckle. They're the hairy knuckle draggers of the world.
But you're ruining your own argument. Everybody says we should do socialism like Norway.
No,
until it comes to talking about Norway as a shithole, that ruins your whole Democrat Party platform.
No, Ben, it's supportive of it. This is, all these countries are shithole countries. That's the whole point. Every country is a shithole country.
No.
They've got their poor. They've got their oppressed. They throw people in
There's
jail.
There's a reason for a word.
They throw people in jail for.
Those countries, they don't have a lot of poor people like here in America.
Man, and then when you take a person who comes out and can make apartheid on a whole bunch of people, that's a shithole person from a shithole country. So we're talking.
They have so many wealthy people. They have to import poor people.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Those
Belgians, the Norwegians,
Finland. I think
from the Netherlands.
One of those countries. They're right now. They've been testing right now the new universal basic income, and it's been pushed all over Finland, Denmark, and Sweden. over there, and they're trying to push it over here in California. There's been some push here in California for the, to push for that, universal basic income. And you guys don't know what it is. Just to briefly sum it up, it's basically just to give like $400 to the poorest people, so they can move up or somehow in their economic ladder or whatever. But that's basically what it is. Just give money to the poorest people, basically, for nothing.
Good luck with that.
That's called general relief.
If you sign up?
In most states, you can get $200 cash a month and $220 in food stamps if you're single and have no kids.
Right, but whose money is that?
The state government or the counties?
It's your money, Ben. It's your money.
The state money? The state doesn't. No, the state doesn't pay taxes. Whose money is that they're giving away?
Our money.
Wait. I get what you're saying. Wait. Yeah, that's the taxpayers' money. But think about this. The taxpayers' money has gone for more bullshit than ever. I mean, we use our taxpayer money to bail out the banks. You use our taxpayer money to mostly pay for the military. I mean, that's what it mostly goes to. And
if you reverse something like the bank bailout, which I would disagree with in the first place, too big to fail is not a capitalist market anything. That's communism. So too big to fail, I was totally against that. And if you reverse that deal, if you gave all the money back to the taxpayers who lost their homes, if you split that equally between every citizen, it would be about $80,000 each. That would have saved a lot of people from foreclosure.
I would say I'm kind of the supporter of the universal basic income. And I would totally have the tax money go into that, because of course our tax money has went for more dumber things, but that would be totally worth it.
No, that's more incentive. I'm against it because that would be more incentive for not being a productive, contributing citizen. If you actually get rewarded why would you try? Why would you try to get a job if you can just stay home and make money?
It's a lot of money. The money that
some people like working.
It's not a lot of money. Right here in California, they're trying to at least give you $400 a month. Now, $400 a month is not a lot of money. So you're still going to have to work and come up with some kind of other income to make up.
How much is it for the whole state? That is a lot of money. How much is it for the entire state? For that whole budget?
Yeah, but I'm just saying right here in Southern California, right here, if you get $400 a month, that's not going to keep you alive. You're going to have to come up with some more money.
Okay.
Well, it hasn't even been put into effect yet, has it?
No, of course
it's been brought up.
It's just pushed.
The only program they have out there is general relief, and you can only be on it for like 6 months at a time, and then you filter off of it and you go back on it. I know one person in California that was on it. Like, it's not year-round. It's temporary.
No, universal basic income isn't temporary.
No, I don't know about that. I'm just talking about the programs that are in place in some states. If you're like homeless.
Where you're talking about temporary tax relief for the regular person.
It's called general relief, GR.
And,
general relief.
Yeah. That's not this.
Permanent relief for the corporations. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, can I segue into this paragraph I've been trying to read for an hour? Diebold, the controversial manufacturer of voting machines, blah, blah, blah. Federal prosecutors filed charges against Diebold Tuesday, October 2013, alleging the North Canton, Ohio-based security and manufacturing company bribed government officials and falsified documents to obtain business in China, Indonesia, and Russia. Diebold also agreed to pay $50 million in settlements to 2 criminal counts. This is not the first time Diebold's been accused of bribery. In 2005, the Free Press exposed that Matt Damschroeder, Republican chair of the Franklin County elections of 2004, reported that key Diebold operative told Dan Schroeder he made a $50,000 contribution to the then Ohio State Secretary of State, Kenneth Blackwell's political interest while Blackwell was evaluating Diebold's bids for state purchasing contracts. Dan Schroeder admitted to personally accepting a $10,000 check from former Diebold contractor Pasquale Patsy Galena made out to Franklin County Republican Party. So basically, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but during the 2004 election, they cheated, and they paid off some government officials to tip the vote.
Who owns
It probably wasn't
Diebold?
just done at the federal level, it was done at the state level, too. But if Don and Ben watch Hacking Democracy, which may or may not be on Netflix, you'll get another eyeful of what happened.
We don't want other eyefuls of what happened. We want people to do their job. Nobody is doing their job anymore. They're going out, they're crying, like crying Chuck Schumer. I mean, that was a funny cartoon after the government shutdown was over, where Schumer had his tidy whities on, and Trump and Schumer were playing poker, and Donald said something like, okay, when are we going to play next?
That's funny.
Well, you know,
but Don, there are a lot more poll watchers than there used to be, ever since Gore v. Bush.
It's not the polls.
There's a lot of poll watchers.
After the electronics, after you've made your vote, that's where it changes, when that vote is going from the electronic voting machine to the pretty much before it gets to the cloud. They're able to have the vote switched. That's why we need a paper vote.
That's what Canada has.
Well, about voting rigging, I mean, every time they get caught, they could just blame it on the employees or, you know, the software engineers and fire them and hire new people, and then they go back to cheating again. It's just like Volkswagen. When Volkswagen got caught for cheating the smog inspection, you know, their vehicles were cheating the smog inspections.
And did they stop, Albert? Albert, did they stop? They got caught a second time, just like Takata.
Exactly. They got caught the second time. When they got caught the first time, what they did is they went back to those cars, and instead of spending a lot of money on fixing them, they just upgraded the software so they can cheat even more better, and they thought they can outsmart the smog inspectors, and they were actually going literally rigging up a smog inspection machines while driving the car on the road, and they were able to still find ignition, so they got caught the second time.
So that shows you where our white leaders are. They are just thieves and criminals, and that's where we're at. That's why we have such a strong legal system. When anything comes, the first people don't even.
You brought race in.
They don't
and
even
you're slow on the
RNA.
uptake tonight.
They don't even try RNA. They don't even try RNA to prove the first thing they do is try to find ways to hack something. Try to find ways to get illegally inside a situation. That's the very first thing that people do when new laws or new regulations are implemented.
And then just to mention real quick, Volkswagen, when they got caught the second time, they were fully caught. They were fully red-handed everything, caught everything. They still went to go blame it on the engineers. They literally, all the CEOs and whatnot, they all blamed it on the engineers, the software engineers, and it was all their fault, and they had nothing to do with it. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing with the rigging election. They just you just blame the employees, or just blame that certain group, and then we can go back to cheating. Yeah.
So what were you going to say, Ben? Because cheating is cheating, and everybody's doing it who has the power to do it.
Right. So what I was going to say was you said it was because of white people. You had to bring race into it, and I was just going to say that if only all of our representatives were Maxine Waters, that would be wonderful.
She didn't do anything.
You bring her up every week, man.
Maxine Waters has a big mouth.
Is that your nemesis?
They have great political.
No, I'd rather she not win again.
Well, she comes from a doggone base that almost can't be lost unless she gerrymanders. Has one house in Crenshaw, and then has the rest of her gerrymandered district out in Encino or something.
And
there's a lot of people I could bring up, but
to do gerrymandering is the United States and France. No other country uses gerrymandering. By the way,
you guys, I'm taking a 30-second bathroom break, so hold down the fort. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Well, it'd be our job to leave the fort because it smells so bad.
No, the reason why I brought up Maxine Waters and that I do constantly is because that's an easy name to recall. But if you're talking about the actions of people because they're white, I mean, she's doing all the same actions, but it's not because she's black, right? She has this same thing in common with the people that you get blamed for being white, but she's doing exactly what people are mad about.
I don't even care if she's white and she's trying to be like a black person or support black people. I don't even care that she's white and she's white, because I believe a gay guy saying that he affiliates himself as a man, or he identifies himself as a man, because if a man says he's identifying himself as a woman, if the man says he's identifying as a woman, I'd rather believe that person than a white person trying to be black. Because, I mean, a guy who literally wanted to cut his dick off and to say he's a woman, I believe him. I believe you. You don't have to prove you cut your dick off. I believe you. I believe you say you identify as a woman. I believe you. That if you're trying to say that you're a white girl and you're trying to be all black and stuff, hell no. You're white. You're white.
I don't know where that came from, but okay.
It came out of left field.
Well, the bottom line is that they're both really the same. If you're going to try to cut your dick off and say that you're a woman and you're from being a man, and you are a white person who's trying to say that they're black, it's the same damn thing, only different.
Yeah, but what's the person going to prove? What is he going to do? Dye his skin like Michael Jackson or something? You know what I mean? What they're willing to do to prove it to me? What are they going to do to prove to me? Because that's
the same thing to me. That's the same to me. Whether you have somebody could identify as African American, and we could come as far medically as to have a doctor specialize in basically putting new skin on you. That's possible, to get a whole new skin transplant.
What are you guys
we spend money on that? Who knows?
You're talking about Michael Jackson again.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if somebody, it's the same to me. Whether a doctor decides to help you with whatever you want to do to yourself is, that's up to whether the doctor can make a living at it. And you've seen they're doing pretty good with anything people want done. They do it. If you need medical attention to be able to become who you think you really are, that's not natural. That's obviously not who you are. It's what you want to become.
Exactly what the argument is for being gay. It's not who you are in general. That's the argument, that you're not that way naturally, that you're supposed to respond one way or another.
Well, okay, the difference there is that you don't need outside influence. You don't need somebody's profession. You don't need to use somebody's career to become gay. Being gay is You don't need anybody else to do anything for you to become gay.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, to become transgender, you need a service. You need somebody's occupation to help you with that. So that's different. You're using a service to make yourself into something. You're paying for a product.
You mean like the federal government paying for the sex change of all the soldiers who want it?
They did
yeah,
it.
like
they
it or,
did it
like it or not, that's a product.
They did it to Chelsea Manning. Remember Chelsea Manning? They turned into a woman.
Yeah, she's going to run for senator.
Yeah,
running for senator.
Yeah, she's running for senator now. Yeah, totally. That's cool. I hope she wins. Chelsea's Manning for senator.
I don't think she. I wouldn't vote for her. I'll just say that. I won't say anything rude, but I would never vote for her.
Well, the thing is that you can't vote for anybody in the military because they all have PTSD and they are they're unreliable. Suicide.
You mean you wouldn't vote for her because you think that all those years in prison, you think they cracked into her brain, like they cracked into her and they got her to turn over?
Well, for one thing, she committed a felony, so she can't even vote.
No, they got her to turn to the dark side. You know what I mean? After all those years, they broke into her.
Well, that's a stepping
that's
stone.
Not why.
You can find a popularity current to help you, and that was it. That was a swift-moving current, basically, because the president was pushing it, and all the president's base jumped on it. And so, if you want to get out of your prison and to make headlines, doing something radical is how you make headlines. And whether he believed it or not, but that's not fair to expect everybody to call you a she when that's recent. I still remember all the headlines of him dressed as a military officer.
Well, one of the main
I think he should start at a lower level instead of run for senator.
Well,
like maybe start as a local official.
And one of the reasons they finally let her out is because I remember Edward Snowden was telling Barack Obama that he'll come back from Russia to the U.S. if they let Chelsea Manning go. And Barack Obama took on that, but he didn't do it right away. It took him a while, but he finally did it. You know what I mean? So, but Edward Snowden never came over here, so he said,
Right.
Well, I think we've kind of worn out our conversational mat, and we should do our conclusions now. We always end up on gays and transsexuals, and that's where it's time to end the show.
All right. Getting stopped.
I don't know, do you guys...
Right.
Because next time I want somebody else to prepare something. Okay?
Sure you do.
You guys,
I do!
You guys come too long, you guys are going to get
Don, what covert operations have you been involved with this week?
Oh, well, this week is re-energized week. I have had the wildest start of the year in putting together the Martin Luther King events here in Reno, and then the Women's March right after that while I was sick with the flu. So I really beat myself up the last 3 weeks. And this week was finally an opportunity for me to regain a little strength and get a little sleep and re-nourishment. But I was very, very busy with the Martin Luther King events because a couple of people on our committee died and a couple more were transferred in their jobs. So it was left up to me and another lady, Mary Cooper, to continue our festivities here in Reno for the Martin Luther King caravan and church services. We're the only caravan in the country. for Martin Luther King. But then immediately after that, we had the Women's March. Police estimated 10 to 12,000 strong here. I led more or less the march down into our park, but we were very, very busy for the last couple of weeks, and now I've finally been able to get a little bit of sleep and get back on my feet, so to speak, because it did take it out of me. But yeah, we've got the Yerington, two girls in Yerington. We've got all kinds of racial problems stemming from too much or the lack of police presence and involvement. Our school system is replete with people who are calling the minority students racially charged names and showing divisive racially charged images on the social media. So we've got those fights coming up that are really...
we had a couple of those found in Duluth a few years ago.
Yeah, well, we are getting them now throughout all of Nevada.
I have something to say about that, I think. I've kind of seen this coming, but the last 8 years or so, the race battles have been basically controlled by the left. It seems like the left was pushing the identity politics, and I think it's gotten out of hand, and I think there's starting to be a pushback against it. And if it's kids doing it, that's not going to be good in the next 10 years. I can see something building, and I wish this would have slowed down, and I wish this would have turned around before, because I don't want to see where it is going.
The thing
we've already seen.
If kids are going to risk, they should be expelled if they have proof on the internet that they're doing stuff like that.
But Jane, just like
there should be zero tolerance.
Just like everything else, just like the voting booths and just like illegal dealings, it's being suppressed. Information. The reason it's gotten out of hand is because our white leaders, our inept white leaders, are suppressing evidence, destroying evidence, obstruction of justice. That's the reason.
See, that's what started this problem. That kind of language is what started this problem.
No,
and it's going to be a pushback bigger than you've seen, I think, because this is generational now.
The problem got started when white men started bringing over people from other countries to be their slaves. That's when the damn problem started. This is nothing new, and this is something where the white man is fully responsible.
Well, actually, my white principal gave me a book of sensitivity to other races and how the white European education system has not suppressed these people, but we've only used one mentality in education, and it was to train people with like-minded thinking.
And it's kind of because the population, we don't have a lot of black people to say, to say. And when you talk about all ethnicity, it's not a lot of black people. But one out of 3 black people are going to jail anyways. And so you look at the prison population. There's a lot of black people in the prison population. And what do private prisons do? They do make you work for like a quarter an hour, or 20 cents an hour. You're working in there. And that's just that 10 cents an hour. That's just to buy your commissary. And by the way, commissary is like Doritos, snacks, and whatever you buy in jail. So that's pretty much it. And you're working for 10 cents an hour, 20 cents an hour. It's, that's slavery right there in prison.
Right, it is. The prison system took over the slavery market, and I know that. But blaming the white people for slavery, actually, what you're doing, Don, is blaming the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-great-grandchildren for slavery.
Always
for slavery that you had nothing to do with. Your great-great-great-great-grandparents had something to do with it. That is no argument nowadays.
Well, it shouldn't be, because all the black slaves, living descendants, should have been
returned.
What's the word? No, that's for the
repaid.
Remember this phrase. Remember this phrase. This phrase is
very socialism backwards.
No. That's fairness.
Yeah.
When you this land, none of this property is the white man's property. This property is all Indian land that's been taken, and then the 40 acres and the mules. They got a lot of the slaves got 40 acres of mules until they took it back.
You could say the same about Mexico and most of South America. I don't play that game. The Spanish conquered the Indians,
and they should be in jail right now.
And let me put this in perspective.
And now you've got people in Brazil and Venezuela and Argentina. They should be in jail because they're all doggone from the shithole country of Germany, who are Auschwitz and Nazi protectors.
Now, let me
criminal.
put this in perspective. Look, let me put this in perspective. I know you're talking about the slavery ended many years ago. I mean, like the real slavery. We still have slavery, of course, in jails, but, the different slavery, and you can't blame them. But think about this. Like father, like son. And the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So you got to think about it in this terms perspective, and
right. But that I already have a perspective on this. I am not going to be blamed for something an action of somebody I'm related
but you
to.
Can help.
If I had a twin brother and he committed murder, why would I be locked up? That's nowadays. Why would I be locked up for something I didn't do?
Studies show, just like you said, like father, like son, and the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Studies show that yes, the sons of the fathers do intend to most of the time to follow their footsteps in some cases, and so when you look at the big time slave owners and big time racist people, and you see the family correlation there, So it, from even something that happened a century ago, it still kind of follows along throughout the decades.
Wouldn't we blame the Democrat Party in that case?
Throughout the generations,
Still, why would we cling to the Democrat Party, Don? If you're blaming, you're blaming the actions of race.
There were slave owners. Because there were people that were slave owners back in the days.
The doggone Democrats are just as much to blame. I don't know why you are making this a black-white, conversation when I mention white, because whites are the predominant race. And you know what they say about being the boss or being the owners or whatever. You are responsible for the goings-on, the business of your entire. In this case, it's not a company.
That's not.
Corporation.
That's identity politics. I don't prescribe to that. I won't agree with that.
Let's put this in perspective. Everybody that's above the billionaire is white. There's no Mexicans or black people. There are some Asians that come here from China, but there's no Mexican black people that are billionaires here in the U.S. That's for sure.
Right.
Right, but okay, Jane, do I speak for you?
I guess I look at the whole thing as in modern times, like I'm a Christian and God's provided for me, and Don has a wife who had an excellent job for 30 years. So I look at it at a level of suffering. Like, Don, you're not suffering. Like maybe a white person did treat you bad, but you're not necessarily suffering anymore. So what are you bitching about?
I should have been. In terms of the money thing, I should have been.
Pays the bills.
I should have been able to make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. But I chose
should have,
not
could
to.
have, would have. So should I. I should be a multi-billionaire just because of the color I am. Right?
Exactly. That's what everyone.
And I should have made better choices instead of taking an oath of poverty and being a socialist.
That's exactly what, more or less, I did. I've said I'm not going to work through this institutionalized system because it is corrupt. It is criminal. It's made to be beautiful. In theory, it would work very well. A laissez-faire democratic economic system. But in all actuality,
here, Don, I agree with both of you guys are saying that, in your career path and everything, and you're not going to be a millionaire and whatnot. So I agree with that, but check this out. I mean,
on purpose, though.
Like being pulled over by the police. When you get pulled over by the police, look at all the basically how many people get shot when they get pulled over by the police. It is primarily, you got to look at it as primarily black people. So for some reason, black people get killed a lot by the cops. Well, you get
there's
pulled
also
over.
a higher rate of crime. Black males make up 7% of the population and commit almost 50% of the crime.
That's not true. The crime is being meted out indiscriminately. That's what I was talking about in terms of voter registration.
In one sense, Don's right, Ben, because every time a white person buys cocaine and doesn't get busted, they're protected a lot more than a black man on the street.
That is not even true.
No,
how do you know? My friend Kathy works
show.
in the entertainment industry in L.A., and a lot of the entertainment lawyers use coke and never got caught by the law.
Are you talking about white collar? You're talking about white collar, and that has nothing to do with race at all.
I'm
talking about how crime is documented. I'm talking about arrests and people who commit crimes, not necessarily race. But a lot of people who commit crimes never get caught.
But here, the main thing in crime is being poor. Like, sure, there's a lot of black people in Mexico that are poor. And when you're poor and you're living around a poor neighborhood and you're hanging around with other poor people, guess what? Your friend might have drugs, and if you get pulled over by the cops and your friend has drugs, guess what? You're guilty too. Everybody in that car is guilty. Or let's just say your friend comes over to your house and he's got drugs or whatever, or guns or whatever, or some kind of warrant to get him. If he's in your house, guess what? You're going to jail too because he was in your house and there was drugs found in your house or whatever. Everybody goes to jail there. You know what I mean? So being poor and being around other people that commit crimes like that could get you busted. You know what I mean? And this. It's kind of the poor perception. When you're poor, you're kind of open to all of these types of crimes that you can get caught for. But if you're rich, you got all these ways that you can go around it. Like if you're rich people don't rob banks. They own the banks and they rob people. So think about it that way, and they never go to jail. Or for that or anything like that.
Ben, nobody's trying to beat you up. I'm just saying that, like Albert's saying, poor people have a disadvantage because cops are in neighborhoods that are more poor, where more crime is committed, and a lot of white people don't rat each other out.
That's not even what I was arguing. That doesn't. Yeah, I agree with that. Because the white collar crimes are people who are friends with the people that make the laws. And they can make what they do illegally legal. So I don't disagree. But it doesn't matter what race you are when you're poor, because if you're committing crime, you should be arrested.
Yeah, so you
and it doesn't matter if you have money, you should be arrested if you commit a crime.
So what's happening, Ben, here in Nevada, and it probably happened up in Washington with the pot. What are you talking about? The laws have changed, and we still have those people who committed those crimes incarcerated. They haven't changed.
And here, let me put it this way. You could be at the wrong place at the wrong time. If you're poor and you're living in a poor neighborhood and you're hanging around, let's just say, just outside your apartment, like by the dumpster or whatever, and there's a crime being committed and you're nearby there, guess what? You were at the wrong place at the wrong time. So you were poor in a poor community at the wrong place at the wrong time. And guess what? You're going to jail too.
Right. Yeah, and I understand that 100%.
Yeah. And that's what happens when you're poor. You just, it just happens.
Right. And you hang around other people who are poor because you don't get invited to $10,000 plate dinners. You hang around and eat the cheapest food, and you have a crappy life, and that's what poor communities do. They can't seem to break out of it unless somebody has a
lot of poor
really good
people
opportunity
eat good
or
food.
good idea.
Yeah.
A lot of poor people eat good food. There's a lot of tasty taco trucks in L.A.
That's why poor people live longer, though, because they eat the better food.
No. Actually,
really
talking about
garbage. There's no such thing as doggone breast cancer and erectile dysfunction. Come on, if you're doing it the right way, if you eat the right food. I just came from going around Italy, the middle part of Italy, and they're eating relatively. They've still got a large, relatively fertilizer-free food chain, and those folks in Italy, they're not coming around with the huge increases in breast cancer and erectile dysfunction. If I went in my neighborhood and told some of the people that I had erectile dysfunction, I get run out of the I don't want to say inner city.
Inner circle?
Inner
secret
circle.
society?
It's not even, but it's not an inner circle. For me, it's not. I live in the.
Well, let me tell you something. Poor people. Let me tell you something. Poor people do not shop at Vaughn's, Albertsons, and Jessup's, and especially they don't shop at Whole Grains. You know, poor people go like at Food for Less, Walmart, and get their food at other cheaper Gardens and other cheaper locations. Yeah, and
exactly.
Whole Grains is like where the upper middle class goes. Not even middle class. You're talking
Whole
about
Foods or Whole Paycheck.
Yep, Whole Foods. You know, I know. Ben knows about
Whole Grains. By the way, you guys, next week we should talk about they're building a $3 billion football stadium in Inglewood.
How can they afford that?
NPR was what?
How do they afford it?
By the rich white man in the banks telling the taxpayers they have to.
Right, and NPR had a special today about gentrification, how this rich white guy bought 7 buildings there and that they're pushing the poor people out where the stadium's being built.
Well, that's what...
Don, how many NFL players do you know that are poor?
Oh, a whole lot. A whole lot.
A lot?
Same situation. A lot. Because it's the same situation. It's the same situation as slavery. These, but it's a lot more money.
Right.
NFL
that's hilarious.
University college graduates.
Ben, if you're an NFL player, you've got the IQ of 3. Just and it's just one IQ.
Wow,
higher than
I'd like to have Richard Sherman come on the show and school you. He went to Stanford.
I know he went to Stanford, and guess what? Richard Sherman's got some freaking white investment group that's telling him what to do, and they're sucking every dime they can away from him, and he's going to be poor soon.
You know, who is Richard Sherman?
He's actually a really smart football player. He was one of the best players too.
Right, and then what happened later in his career? He was starting to espouse things that nobody liked, and next thing you know, he's damn near without a job, not because of his injuries and lack of playing time, but because of his political views. Kind of like one of the,
Well, so he's getting kicked out of the club.
Oh, John Yoder called in right before. John Yoder called in right before we cut off. So can we say hi to him?
Who cut off?
Yeah, sure. Hey.
No, the show cuts off in 3 minutes after the 90-minute mark. We can talk another hour, but if you don't call in before 90 minutes, then you're screwed.
Okay. Well, of course.
Okay, I'm going to say, welcome to the Dumb Football League, John. How's it going?
Excellent.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, Richard Sherman is one of the, at one point was one of the top defenders in the league. I think he could go one-on-one with anyone. But his mouth was even one step faster than his ability.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying.
I'm going to have to look this guy up.
That's what I was saying, that he's been ostracized because of his political views, not because he's lacking his skills anymore. You know, this is a racial situation.
Muhammad Ali.
Hey, he had to go to jail. You know, we're talking about the fact that these folks, if you speak your name, this shithole United States is going to put you in jail. And that's the whole point, is that all these things are wrong.
Don, you're way more radical than Martin Luther King. I mean, you're far more radical than Martin Luther King. He was actually a lot more conservative and less obsessed with race than you are.
No.
Maybe he's somewhere between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali.
But
I think you've blown Malcolm X out of the water, man.
But the thing is, Ben, is that I'm not racist. That's the whole point. I'm a realist. I'm a realist. It's the realist.
So you're more like the Jared Taylor, right?
Oh, man. This is realism, Ben. I have messed with every known nationality of person there is, period. I've seen all these races, and I don't see anyone that hates. And that's what I've been saying. With melanin and the pineal gland and stuff, we people of color do not hate. We don't have that capability. Oh, we do.
It's hate speech. If I talked like you, it would be called hate speech. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Think about stand-up comedy. If you're doing stand-up comedy and you're making fun of black people, that doesn't mean you're a racist. You know, that's stand-up comedy.
This is not hate speech. This is love speech. That's the whole point. Trying to get people together. Trying to get
love isn't blame. No.
Well, that does bring
that's because white people can't love. They don't know what love is. They don't have souls to love. They go out and they just do things to try to
in a loving way.
That's
a very loving way to say that.
Very loving way. And they don't have the consciousness or capability of love. They're all
hilarious.
For themselves. They're all for the selfishness of what it can do for them and their ilk. You know.
But I don't identify as white.
Okay, well that's a good thing. Now you can help with the balance.
I don't identify as anything.
No, I ain't helping whatever you're doing. That's crazy talk to me. I don't buy into any of that.
I haven't professed anything but trying to work together. That's what I'm professing. Being a lobbyist, I have to work with everyone, and whatever my point of view is, people have to, they have to at least respect it, and that's one of the things.
No, I'm not respecting something that doesn't deserve respect. If I worked with you, that would make me self-loathing. That would be me against myself to help you with your agenda.
That's because I'm working to make sure that the people have some equity, some fairness in being treated in the system. That's what I work for. I've got,
I like that too. But that's once you start getting into the details, you find it's not equity. It's not really equality that you want.
What I want is for e-verification, so that these white doggone employers don't keep bringing in illegal immigrants and then blaming the illegal immigrants for the problem. That's the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my life. And the immigrants are taking it. They're not doing anything about it. The doggone, how many doggone dreamers have you heard from? 3. Probably, and those are on social media somewhere. Dreamers aren't saying anything about the unfair situation that they're in. They didn't come here on their own. So they're not here more or less illegally because they weren't to blame. This is the doggone employment situation that these people, I saw when I was a kid, I'm sitting in Nashville City, and I'm seeing all these doggone trucks and buses coming in every morning, and then bringing the Hispanic, Latino workers back every day. I mean, in droves, lines.
And you can blame the Democrats for not wanting to work with Trump. Trump made the offer that if the Dreamers can stay, then we need help with the wall. And the Democrats refused.
Trump didn't work with the Democrats to make this a communist country. That's what this tax reform is. It's giving the bulk of the revenue to the 1%. That's communism. It's communism. The Democrats will not work with communists. They'll work with socialists. They'll work with socialists.
That's funny.
Here,
that is hilarious.
Only in this show we have people with extreme differences. People that are extremists, people that are conservative and progressive and nationalists, all put together.
We're not extremists. I'm a centrist. I'm trying to make sure that we walk down the middle path because that's the people.
Democrats don't work with communists. That's crazy.
They work
because
with socialists.
Look who runs the DNC.
They work
look
with
who runs
socialists.
the DNC. Who's Keith Ellison?
Tom Perez.
No, Jordan or whatever her name is, Jordan or something.
The unions, if it wasn't for unions, Ben, your dad or your granddad wouldn't have made the money that he made. Unions are the ones that brought the salaries into a reasonable.
No, my grandpa and my dad weren't in a union on either side.
Let's think about this, because this is not a Democratic party. It's not a democracy. We're not really a democracy because it doesn't matter if a Republican's running the show or Democrats are running the show. Democrats and Republicans, they're both basically communists because most people don't want war. And guess what? Even if we have a Democrat or Republican president, we still have endless war. That most people don't want it, but we still get it. Guess what? Most people don't even like gerrymandering, but we still have gerrymandering. And most people don't like what the government's doing, but the government still does it, and that's called communism. They're just you do it even if the people don't like it.
Yeah, let me interject something. We have the situation of the Dreamers, and I guess my question is, if they want to be real Americans, what were the first Americans when they came over? Oh, I'd like to get free health care. I like to want to go show up at a hospital, get any injury I have taken care of and paid for. If I have a baby, I want you to take care of it. I want to be a part of this. I need free housing. I need government assistance. I need EBT for my food. And you think the first settlers are like, what are you talking about? There's miles and miles of land. Get yourself a well, plant some corn, go hunting. They don't have, this is not a free ride. Now, if you had Dreamers stay at your house, you'd say, how many people can I feed and take care of? You'd say, one. If you have an unlimited number, so why don't you send all the Dreamers to your house?
It was welfare. The white man came over, sat at the Indians' table, ate the Indians' food, then raped the Indians' wives.
You're not a history major, Don.
Let me put it this way, okay? Because United States...
That was welfare.
Let me put it this way.
You're not much of a history major. I'm not going to take your history lessons like that. Nope.
Let me put it this way. The United States is a communist country. The United States is a communist country because the government does whatever they want to do, even though the majority of people do not want it. Even the majority
of like that one, Don?
The government does what they want to do. So this is a communist country.
The facts are the facts. You should learn them. No.
The fact of the facts
nope.
that the rape and the murder of the Indians came immediately after they had their Thanksgiving dinner. So that's what are we talking about here?
Once again, that was hundreds of years ago.
Let's talk about
You can look at any other country and find past atrocities that you could get hung up on. Go ahead. look at any country you can think of and look back until you find an atrocity that you can be mad about.
The biggest atrocity is the shithole Germans when they went around killing everybody. The shithole.
Guess what? And if it wasn't for the United States, we'd all be speaking German or dead right now.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, the United States outdid the Germans in World War II. They came over and dropped a shitload of bombs in all over Europe.
And why did we do that? Were we running up Jews?
Because those shithole Germans wanted to take over the world.
Yeah, the United States came over and dropped a lot of bombs and killed a lot more people than Hitler.
What are you talking about? You mean we exterminated 6 million people, Jews? Where were the prison camps? We killed people.
Hitler killed people indiscriminately. Hitler killed people in gas chambers and killed them indiscriminately. The United States just came over and dropped
discrimination in the first place.
So you think the United States is more evil?
This is not a black and white Democrat Republican thing. This is a people, a human thing. That's what I'm talking about, Dan. This has nothing to do with Democrats and Republicans. This has people to do with people coming from shithole countries who want to be imperialists and just control everything. That's wrong.
Well, how come under Donald Trump more women are working and more black people are working and more minorities are working than ever over the last 8 years?
Obama's plan started working finally after he...
After 8 years, suddenly in 1 year it exploded. Are you serious? You realize that Donald Trump, they call him a misogynist, yet his ex-wife Ivanka runs half his business. His daughter is in the White House doing the other half of the crap. His wife is an immigrant, but she's a legal immigrant who is successful. She was a successful
That's the second
immigrant.
Wife. That's the second Russian wife.
No, that's
and his spokesperson is a woman. And his chief advisor is a woman. He has more women working for him than anyone that I know of that's successful.
Yeah, Kellyanne Conway is a woman, right? Kellyanne Conway has gotten less credit than any other woman.
She's not. Kathy,
right.
She is not a woman.
She has.
She's not a woman?
Less credit than any other woman.
She's his $25,000 concubine. You've got to understand that Ava Braun was, with Hitler. So somebody has to go down.
Donald Trump beat up his first wife.
Exactly. And his first wife came over and he, on the green card. But what are we talking about here?
Oh, does the economy matter?
Who cares about the economy? That's what I'm saying, Ben. This is not about the economy. Treatment for human beings like Albert and other people. The poor girl who's up in Washington saying she's white, she's black when she's white. This is about those people who want individual acknowledgement instead of monetary gain.
It's called feigned depressionism.
Okay.
And it's what the whole, the protected groups, everybody's using that. There's a new protected group every day, and pretty soon, if everything is negative, then it stops being negative. If everything is one thing, nobody's a victim anymore if everyone's a victim. You understand what I'm saying?
And that's what nobody wants, but everybody is being pushed into. We don't want.
That's not true. Every time you try to rally against the oppressive white, you're buying into it. You're helping it. You're helping to gain more movement for another oppressed group. More feigned depressionism.
No, all we're asking for is equality. We're asking that there is no glass ceiling. Like I said, black people, we already know that we're faster, bigger, stronger, and smarter. And that is just...
Well, then what are you asking for help for?
We're not. The poor whites are asking
if you're so big, strong, and fast, and premium, and supreme,
right?
Then why would you have to meet as a group for equality and equity and all these things that don't really mean what you say?
Because we're being ostracized. We're being
so you're still playing the victim, even though you just said how strong you are.
like Asians and Jews.
We don't have the firepower. We don't have
the mental firepower.
You're against guns, man.
That's because he's saying the white man is the oppressor that controls the money, the jobs, and the society.
We don't have drones. We don't have drones that we can drop bombs on the nearest mansion.
Would you?
Musk. No.
Would you?
Because we believe in peace and love and happiness. We believe in music and celebration.
Why does it matter that you don't have drones, then?
We don't need drones. We don't want drones. We want to just have a couple of beers and play some dominoes on the front porch.
All black people, some black people are pretty violent.
They are violent. They're naturally violent because they don't.
No, okay, let's get down to it. Who's the most violent white person? What origin is the most violent that makes white people violent, if that's what you say?
The
Vikings.
The Teutons.
So the Norse countries? Nordic countries?
Yeah.
Is that what you're against? Or what about the Germanic people?
We're not against anybody, Ben. Why are you doing that? We're not against.
I'm trying to split the white boogeyman into its own separate slivers so you can see.
Yeah.
No, I think England's been the most violent. The English nation.
That's what I'm talking about. Those shitholes, northern European countries.
You mean the Russians weren't violent? 100 million people. The Chinese weren't violent, killing millions and millions under communism. And what about the poor, oppressed Jews who've been slaves for thousands of years, gassed and killed? Or how about Asians who came over here? I mean, you think they had a free ride? I think it's a cop-out. You have first or second generation Jews who are successful. You have African Americans been here for 200 years. It's a really old song you're singing. I mean, you got to rise up. Are you smart enough to do it? Because Asians and Jews are getting a free ride when they come over here.
But when you're a black man and you're in a nice car with a nice suit, you are still 2 times more likely to get stopped by the police than anybody else. Period.
Well, you already admitted that you speed everywhere.
Why do police stop you?
It doesn't.
Are they stopping people?
John,
why?
I'm a white privilege and I'm going to bed. So you guys can end the show by yourselves.
All right. Well, bottom line is
why are police stopping black men at night? Is it because they have nothing to do? Or is it because in the hood there's brothers sitting at the corner with the sisters at Normandy and Crenshaw? There are no white people out there. I can tell you that. That's a fact. And yet it's only 10% of the population, but 80% of the people on the street panhandling are African American or minorities.
Where'd the drugs come from, John? Where'd the drugs come from? Come on.
I'm talking about police are stopping black people, and I'm saying where are they stopping them? And when?
Did the Afghans bring the the heroin over? Did the Colombians bring the?
Well, how much time do you spend on where the drugs come from at your meetings? I mean, you should be pushing black people to ignore drugs then. In that case, you should spend all kinds of money on that. Because if you're smart enough to know that it's a trick to oppress a minority group, then you're smart enough to avoid it.
But you can't when the group that is oppressing you has the firepower, government, and everything in their pocket. They make the laws.
Because white men make black people take drugs, and they make them pimp. They have no will whatsoever. They're very weak people, apparently, according to Don.
The pimp thing.
Do you think, Don, do you think that's going to slow down?
There's so many white pimps out there, it's not even funny. John, the white pimps outnumber black pimps 75 to 1.
I got a question for you, though, Don. Coming from somebody who's already argued, you don't agree with the Second Amendment. You don't agree with the right to bear arms and defend yourself and be able to make your voice heard to a tyrannical government in the first place. So when you say they have more firepower, that means nothing coming from you who would, if you had the opportunity, you would get rid of the Second Amendment. And then the oppressive groups, the quote-quote oppressive groups that you're already afraid of are going to have 100% control. So that your argument doesn't mean anything when you're against the right to be yourself.
If you look at history, I do remember the Second Amendment in history was created at the same year the Ku Klux Klan started. It was the same year the Ku Klux Klan started. They actually started the same year the Second Amendment started.
No, it's not. The Second Amendment was part of the Bill of Rights, the original Bill of Rights.
Yeah, but that's oh no, it was what it's called what's that I'm trying to remember the main gun company that what's the name? It's AMR. It's got 3 letters. You know the one that goes into the I mean they don't give money to the Republicans, and there's the NRA. Yeah, no, it's the NRA. No, not remember. It was the NRA. The NRA actually was started the same year the Ku Klux Klan started. That's what it was. It was the NRA.
That's not a gun company. That's a.
So what are you saying? The KKK is responsible for all guns?
No, I'm saying the NRA. They first the Ku Klux Klan started. The NRA. They both started the same year for some odd reason. You can look that up in history. I remember seeing that in history for some reason. It's just
what year was that?
There's no correlation there, though. There's no obvious correlation.
That's just something to think about, though.
I mean,
I'm still working on this. White people are trying to arrest black people because they're black, or is it because they're arresting people that are suspicious of doing suspicious at night?
John,
don't beat up the black man.
John.
Or Lauren's coming to get you.
It's so sad. John, so sad because you've seen it firsthand. You know that's what's happening. You got stopped. Vinny, like you say, you get stopped periodically just because.
Oh, I'm tired. Because I'm out late at night on a bicycle. I look like a homeless person. And
right.
People going at that time of night are running drugs or going to rob or steal. That's the probability.
Right. So you still support your whoever institutionalized racist people.
Yes, because without them, the only ones I'm afraid of are the homies. Because I mean, the cops, if I play the game, they will shake me down. They'll leave me alone. The homies and the street guys, the zombies, they're the ones that are trying to attack me and rob me. Yes. I've never had a cop rob me. I've never had a cop break into my house and take all my stuff. I have had everything stolen. My car, my equipment. It wasn't policemen. I don't even think it was black people. It's just someone, just bad people.
But think about culture, okay? Culture, we see in culture like a bunch of magazines over decades and decades of magazines telling you that this is how a people should look. And most of them start to look like they're on the magazine. And it's kind of like the same thing in culture when we look at movies and TV shows. We're looking at all the way the black guy behaves. There's always this black guy in the movie. He tends to be, very type of person. You know what I mean? And throughout many years of TV shows, movies, magazines, and news stations, and what you see in culture, it's what is going to come out the outcome of natural norm behavior.
Right, but the vehicle stops has become more of a license to stop and frisk, and I would agree with well, I don't know where you guys stand on it, but the way I see it is most traffic stops are all victimless crimes.
Well, that's true.
Your vehicle becomes the stop and frisk. If you have a crack in your windshield, if you touch the white or yellow line, if you don't come to a complete stop, all these things are basically pull you over and stop and frisk.
I get what you're saying. Stop and ID states. There are other states that are also stop and ID, which means that the police can pull you over and look at your ID, and by law you have to show them your California ID, or your ID, basically your identification card, right? In some other states, I think Texas is not a stop and frisk ID, and I think Nevada, Texas, and other states they don't have that. But California and other states like California do have the stop and ID. And I'm against that, by the way. I don't think it's right for a police officer to be able to look at your ID for no reason.
It is an excuse to check and see if someone's doing something wrong. It is an excuse to open the cookie jar and see what's in there. But here's the point: if you're not doing anything wrong and you got nothing to hide, then what's the deal? Or in other words, I need my cop checking who's on the streets, because that's how they catch the bad guys that are ripping me off.
I'll tell you what the deal is. Because if a cop wants to let's just say, if you're walking down the street and a cop pulls you over for no reason, you're walking down the street and you want to see your ID, right? By law, you got to put on the right? That's not like you. Does not like you.
You're cutting out.
Now he's got your ID and he knows where you live and everything. So now what?
I guess what I disagree with is victimless crimes, and we have so many of them. It's not just driving, but a lot of it is driving, and a lot of it is just for revenue. I guess, speaking from experience, I've paid thousands. I've paid thousands of dollars, definitely, for things that affected nobody. Things that affected nobody at all, and it's just infractions. It's not a crime against somebody.
I've paid
just infractions.
I can tell you from experience,
tens and thousands of dollars on stuff that I should not have had to pay for, but I will take it to a lawyer. I will pay $5 to get away from things that I didn't do.
I can tell you from experience, because of pop culture and the way culture is. I had a situation where cops showed up, and it happened to me twice. These cops, by the way, were racist, and I'm not a racist guy, of course, but I could tell when somebody's racist. And these cops were really racist. Like the white guy that actually was driving the wrong direction and rear-ended me, like hit me in the back on my mom's car, and the cop actually gave us a ticket for not having insurance, so we got a ticket, but didn't give them a ticket for driving the opposite direction. They got let off, the white guys, and those cops. I can tell you, those cops were racist the way they treated me, and yeah, and
true.
And this was real life what happened to me, and I was completely stunned. But there is racist cops out there, and I see them firsthand.
Oh, true. But also, though, here's the thing. It's usually a revenue thing. They make extra money. It goes in. It feeds their salaries. But here's the question. If there is a law and you are committing an infraction or you're in violation of it, do they have the right to write you up? I mean, even if it's ticky-tacky, even if it's because you had a front license plate or a light bulb went out in the back, technically, is there a law?
But they shouldn't have the right to search your car. Search and seizure is not a part of a misdemeanor.
Actually, by law, like in California, they're supposed to ask you, if they can search your car, and you're supposed to say, like, no, I do not allow that. You're supposed to have an option, but in many cases, police officers don't even ask. They search without even asking. So they're actually breaking the law. Many police officers break the law. And even if you say I don't want my car being searched, they will still search your car and break the law. But guess what? Since there's a cops, there's no other police officer to come by and say, hey, you're breaking the law. This police officer is going to go to jail because he broke the law. That never happens, and police officers break the law, break the rules and laws all the time.
Oh yeah, but when they pull me over, I open up my bag and I go, check it out. I'm clean. I got nothing to hide. Now, maybe one day they'll plant something on and I'll be the victim, but I can tell you after 100 times of being pulled over, they go through my stuff, they play good cop, bad cop, and after 5 minutes they go, oh, man, I'm sorry. Next time I won't even stop you. It's like they know I'm cool. And if I threw an attitude, I might have a different story. So I don't know. I think if people aren't breaking the law and they keep it cool, you know, I think they'll be far better off for it. I want my police checking up on stuff, even if I hate it.
Right, and this has more to do with who writes the laws, because I think we need more accountability on, is this law constitutional? Is this infringing on anybody else? If not, it shouldn't be a punishable, you know. But one ticket can put somebody into a tailspin, or I got a windshield ticket. If I was any worse off, that would have been, taking dinner right off of the table. These things need to be changed. If we're going to start ticketing people for broken cars, there's got to be a better way than to make them pay money.
It's against the law to be poor. It's just against the law to be poor. If your tires are bald or your windshield's cracked or your bumper's falling off, you're going to get pulled over and you're going to get a ticket, and you might even get your car impounded because you're poor. If you can't afford insurance, you're going to get your car impounded because you're poor. It's against the law to be poor.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. It is hard when you're below a certain level. I understand.
Yeah, it is. It's against the law to be poor. You can't afford to be poor, and if you're poor, you're breaking the law simply by being poor.
Right. Well, and that is annoying, but I think the majority of stuff you see on the headline in the news is not that situation. It's a minority getting stopped. Like example, they had the big thing on this gal on the metro or the bus. I mean the rail system. She had her foot up on a seat. A cop walked up to her and said, "Please put your foot down." Now it probably wasn't that crowded. She was taking up an extra seat. All she had to do was put her foot down. And so she said no. So he grabbed her and pulled her off the bus. And then she started making this whole, like she's being raped, basically, throwing her off the train without her. And he was an asshole. Her phone and her backpack was still on the train. So she's wrestling with him saying, I got to get my stuff. And, he's being a jerk about it. But the point is, all she had to do was comply. Just shut her mouth and comply, but she had to be like a major diva, and she wouldn't move her foot, so he gave her the boot. And I think that's what most of this stuff is. It's an attitude, and it's about establishing power. And when you're with the cop, you have to say, do you have equal power? I don't think you do. I think he's got the power, and you got to.
Just because
you want to get your ass thrown on the ground, then show how big you are. That's all I'm saying.
And just because he's a cop doesn't mean he's above the law. Doesn't mean he could tell you whatever he wants and behave however he wants and say whatever he wants and command you to do whatever he wants.
Because he doesn't know if you're dangerous, if you're an idiot, if you're stoned, if you're stupid, or if you've had a bad divorce and you're upset and whatever. He's trying to secure the scene. So he talks to 10,000 people, and one of those people put a bullet in his back.
But what about the officer is not trying to secure the scene? What about the officer not doing the job? What about the officers having a bad day and does not like you? Does not like you.
He's trying to secure the scene, and when you don't comply, now he has no concern.
What about
he doesn't
the police officer is not trying to secure the scene? What about the police officer is just racist and he doesn't like you? What happened then?
Well, if he does it a couple of times, he's going to hit the headline news, and they're going to write him up, and he's going to have a situation. But I think that's not always the case. I think it's generally a cop is trying to secure, he's pulling over like, what's going on? Let me talk to you. The person's being non-compliant. That raises a flag like, okay, I have a situation. And until he finds out you don't have a gun or drugs, he's going to start treating it like a crime scene. So That's what I'm saying. Is if he does it, he stand up with a bullet in his head.
Does not get caught. You know why? Many times the police officer does not get caught because he's a police officer. He could take your camera away. He could take your cell phone away. He's a police officer, so he's not going to get caught. Who writes the report? The police officer is the one writing the report. If witnesses want to talk to the police officer, so the police officer can write a report. He writes the report. He's in charge of the whole area. So many times the cop doesn't get caught because there's no way to catch the cop.
You know what?
Taking the camera away from
I
him.
understand that. Well, I'm saying I'll give him a pass because if I have a bad day at the 99er, they'll give me a written warning. If he has a bad day, he's dead. And there's a major difference. And he's not making $200,000 a year or $1 million. He's making whatever is $50,000 or $60,000 a year. It's nothing compared to his life, his wife, and his kids that he leaves behind.
Actually, in 2016, police officers killed over 1,000 people within the year of 2016. And then when it came to people killing police officers, it was only about a dozen police officers that died on people.
That's a misleading statistic.
Got killed. And police officers, police officers kill people 100 times more than people kill police officers.
That's 3 people getting killed a day in a year, right? 365 times 3, that's about 1,000. 3 times a day. How many times a day does a cop in the United States pull over a person or have to investigate a situation or gets a call, domestic violence, or there's a theft at 99er or whatever this place is? How many times in a day?
Yeah,
people get killed. How many calls do they get? 1,000? 10,000?
Yeah, don't you see
100,000?
Don't you see something wrong if 1,000 people are dying by police officers and only like about a dozen police officers are dying in comparison?
Wait, no. Let's take it one thing at a time. 1,000 people, 3 people a day. How many times do you think an officer a day stops someone, pulls someone over?
How many officers a day gets killed on duty? Gets killed on duty compared to how many times he kills. You know, it's far beyond the other way.
Well, why would someone be shooting an officer?
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't hardly happen, but it does. But the numbers are very low compared to officers.
You see, policemen, why would you be shooting to kill him?
Yeah.
What would be your motivation to shoot and kill a cop?
It's not the motivation.
Let me take a shot at him. There's usually a situation, right?
Yes, but it's not that. It's about the numbers. It's about the numbers. If police officers are killing over 1,000 people a year, and only a dozen, like let's just say about 12 police officers are dying a year, compared to how many people they're killing, you know.
So you would feel better if more cops. You would feel more better. You would feel more better if. Wait a second. How many times does a person pull over a cop and try to attack him versus how many times does a cop have to pull over someone in the name of his job? Again, statistically, how many? Let's start with that. How many times a day? Do you think it's 10,000 times a day in the United States? 100,000?
It doesn't even matter if it's 1 billion times a day. You know what I mean? So you're saying wait. Let's evaluate that statement. So let's say that 3 times a day a cop pulls someone over and 3 people a day get killed. But if it's 1 million people get pulled over and 3 people get killed, you're saying that's the same? It doesn't matter? It doesn't matter because there's more cops killing people than there are people killing cops. And the number ratio is extremely disproportionate.
Again, you're not answering the question. How many times do you think a police officer pulls over a person or investigates a situation or a call a day?
Like I said, it doesn't matter. You got to look at those numbers.
Oh no, it does. It extremely matters. How many times in L.A.? You think 1,000 times? How many tickets got issued? That means a cop pulling over someone in a car could have a weapon, could be drunk, could be whatever. How many calls did we call? You know, how many businesses call and say, "Oh, we had a robbery," or "We have a suspicious person"? How many times is a street person out here? I bet you it's 500,000. I bet you the odds are 1 out of 1 million or 1 out of 500,000 someone gets shot and killed. And you're trying to compare that with someone shooting a cop dead? It just
Exactly. I'm comparing cops killing people to people killing cops.
The people pay for police. The people pay for the fire department and police because it's illegal to retaliate. Revenge is illegal, so there is a police force, and they're paid by tax dollars. And any position of authority, like a police officer, should have only people high in integrity. And once you have power over a citizen, they're basically a special class of citizen, but they're still citizens. So people that abuse it should be caught and prosecuted to make examples, but there should be a high level of integrity for any of those positions.
So
and the laws need to be evaluated too.
Let's say
police officers can have a revenge on you if they wanted to, because in California, and when I was taking the law class, I learned this in class that if you actually showed a gun, right? Like if you actually had a gun on there and they saw that you had a gun or whatever reason, or let's just say you fired a bullet in midair, you fired in midair, but you dropped the gun and you went running. The police officer can legally shoot you in the back, even though you dropped the gun and you went running. They could shoot you in the back because you were a threat a while ago, even if you didn't have a gun, let's just say you were driving and you almost ran the cop over, right? Let's just say you were driving trying to get away from the cops, and the cop got in front of your car while you were driving, and you almost ran him over because he got in front of you. So now he can say that you tried to kill him because you tried to run him over, so he can shoot at you and kill you. And by law, he can do that, and he can get away with it, and that's perfectly legal. That's perfectly legal. It states right there that if criminals try to kill cops or try or prove some kind of unsafety and some kind of danger, that they can kill you for it, and they had killed people just that.
And wouldn't you want people that are that dangerous, wouldn't you want the police to get them out of society, to get them off the streets, to eliminate them? Let me ask you a question. If you had 1,000 cops die a year, would that make you feel better? Do you think, because you realize that there's a less cop population. We don't have 380 million cops. So if you had 3 cops a day get shot and killed, would you feel really safe? Do you think the police would be very nice when they're going over knowing that every day 3 of them get shot and killed? Would that make you happy?
You think that the guy that dropped the gun and ran back and was running away from the cops deserved to get shot by the cop? Are you running around with a gun?
Am I running around with a gun?
The guy that dropped the gun and ran away and got shot in the back by a cop, you think he deserved it? He deserved it. What about the guy that was trying to drive away from the cops and get away from the cops, and the cop? Why would
you be running around shooting a gun on the street? Do you do that?
Look,
you just gave that example. If you shot a gun in the air and dropped the gun and ran, that the cop could shoot you. Why would you do that? Would you do that?
Even if you didn't shot the gun in the air, he could have just dropped the gun and ran away. He could still get shot in the back. That's perfectly legal. That's legal.
Do you have a gun?
How about this? What about the guy that was trying to drive away from the cops? What about the guy that
have a gun?
Away from the cops? And the cop jumped right in front of his vehicle. The cop jumped right in front of his vehicle, and he almost got ran over. And the cop shot him and killed him. You think that was okay too?
You're pulling up the weirdest example. Have you ever tried to run over a cop, or have you ever shot a gun in the air and dropped it and ran in your life? Do you know anyone that's done that? Seriously.
The guy
I'm going to hit the sack, you guys.
Police officer, and he jumped in front of his vehicle, and then he shot him. He shot him dead.
Is that a logical example of anything that all of us have done? Has any of us in this group tried to run over?
Would you jump in front of a vehicle that's trying to get away?
A cop? If I knew it was a police car, no, I wouldn't try to run away. I would stop and say, officer, what can I do here? I wouldn't be running away.
You would not get in front of a vehicle that's trying to get away, weren't you? Would you get in front of a vehicle that's trying to get away? You would not stand in front of that vehicle that was trying to get away. You would not stand. You would probably be on the side of it, but not in front of it.
if a car was trying to run me over, I'd try to get out of the way. But again, I haven't ever had a police car try to run me over on the street. I mean, they might have the siren going. I'll get out of the way, but I never, without a siren, have they tried to run me over. Have you? Do you know anyone who the cops tried to run you over?
No, exactly. If you're not dumb enough to to get in front of a vehicle that's trying to get away, you're not dumb enough to do that. Guess what? A cop did that. Just did that exactly thing that you're proposing is dumb. It did that thing and then shot the guy dead.
I'm just saying that's an example that no one I've known in my whole life has ever encountered. I've encountered. I mean, that just seems like a really extreme example to hate on the police.
That's illegal. Cops can do that every day. Cops can just jump in front of vehicles every day and then shoot the guy and kill him, and they can use that as an excuse that he tried to run him over, and that's perfectly legal.
An MO. I've heard of many people, and I've had friends where homeless people have jumped in front of their car and claimed that they've jumped into a car and then claimed that was parked and claimed that they got hit and they were trying to get a lawsuit. I have never heard of cops jumping in front of cars so they can shoot people. Really?
Well, believe it or not, that happens.
All the time.
Yeah, I've even seen it on the video. I've seen it on a police video. I've seen it on TV. I've literally seen it on TV. You click on a YouTube video and usually find one.
I've lived 58 years. I've never seen a cop do that. I've seen lots of cops. I see them every day. I've never seen a cop jump in front of a car and then shoot someone. Really, seriously.
Yeah.
I've seen that once.
That's the law. The law literally lets cops have revenge. The law basically states that the police officer can have a revenge on you if you put them in danger or something. They can use many of those reasons to kill you.
I gotta do more research on that one.
I guess the one that comes to my mind would be the only one I've seen would be when Lavoy Finicum was killed. It looked like the officer jumped directly in front of him and fired. But it's hard to say. I mean, that's what they used to say that he could have been killed, and that they used it over and over and over in all the news articles that an officer was nearly hit, but it looked like he knew the truck was going to go off of the road and intentionally went farther into the way, so there's no way that he could get past the roadblock. They had already fired shots at the truck in the first place, so they broke the law first. And the roadblock was illegal too, according to Oregon state law. But it looked to me like he intentionally got farther into the only path that would have been available.
Right. But now here's a question, though, because we are giving some examples of things that have happened. But here's the point, is in our life, in your life, you think about how many people personally, do you know has been shot and killed by a cop, or that a cop has jumped in front of their car and shot and killed them, or someone shot a gun in the air and the cop showed up and shot and killed them? I mean, that you personally know. Now ask yourself this question. How many people do you know, including yourself, you've been robbed by someone, you've been harassed by a homeless person, you've had your car broken into and your stuff? I can tell you 50 or 60 times. Have I been shaken down by the cops? Yes, hundreds of times. But, never hurt, never robbed, never shot or killed, okay? But I've been ripped off my whole life, and if I leave my bicycle, in fact, this last week someone stole my bicycle seat outside of LA Fitness. It wasn't a cop. The second time it's happened, in front of the place, right, in front of cameras. The point of what I'm saying is I think we're bringing up examples that are really not intelligent examples of practical, everyday situations.
I wasn't saying it was a norm. I was only saying that I knew of one case.
Are you worried about getting pulled over by a black guy that's going to rob you? I mean, he's going to rob you and you're driving. Are you worried about him pulling you over?
Actually, when I go down to the corner of Lincoln and Pico, or anywhere down Pico or Lincoln between 10 at night and 4 in the morning, and I have a homeless guy come and say, "Hey, brother," Or I go to Normandy and Crenshaw, and there's 3 African-American men and 2 African-American women, and they're drinking, and they're pimping, and they're selling drugs. And by the way, I can drive there right now. Yeah, it's going down. It's not the police out there that are pimping and selling drugs. That's a fact. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but hey, here's the thing. Look, if somebody comes into your house and robs you, and you have a gun, guess what? You can shoot him. You can legally shoot somebody that comes inside your house without permission. Okay? But if the cop comes inside without permission, you can't shoot the cop. And he could tell you to do whatever he wants you to do, and you have to do it. Legally, nobody can pull you over besides the cop. The cop is the only one who can pull you over. So he's got power. He's got a lot more power than he should have over you. And I'm not talking about pulling you over and asking for your driver's license, your registration, stuff like that, the normal process. No, they do a lot. They do a lot more than they should not be doing, but they have power to do it. There's been cases of cops, basically raped this woman and she tried to complain about it that she got raped, but she couldn't do anything about it. But she can prove it. Because the cop is the one that raped her when she got pulled over, and there's been cases like that, and you have no control of it.
Well, what I would like to do is, if it's possible, is if you can take all the policemen that are in your neighborhood and send them to mine. I don't mind, and you can just have the homies take care of you, your friends, the people with the guns on the streets. They can take care of you. I'll take those extra police. I have no fear about it. I'm sorry that your experience has been that way, but if you don't want any police protection, that's fine. I'll send some of the people from Lincoln, and I'll pick them up, and let me know where you live, and I'll drop them off, and they can help you out.
Hey, you're going to the extreme. Your point of view is extreme. I'm telling you how the reality and how things happen, but you're going to the extreme.
Well, no, you actually brought the example that we can't trust the cops and that they're doing all these bad things. So I'm saying, take your police that are there because they're apparently corrupt, send them over here because I have nothing to fear.
I never said you can't trust every police officer. That never came out of my voice.
The reality is they're not breaking into my houses or people that I know. They're not robbing people. They're not raping people. And I know this does happen statistically. But I'm just saying that even Don can tell you right now. Even Don can tell you right now how many black people have get shot and by the way mistreated by the police, and it happens more than you think, more than you would like to believe. The reality is it's more messed up than you think. So they're doing this stuff, and it's not being reported, and it's undercover. People are disappearing. The police are killing them, and we don't know about this.
Well, I like to hear Don's perspective. Don, I like to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, Don.
Okay.
That's exactly what's happening. There are people who are being invaded. Their homes are being invaded by the police, and it's not being reported or it's being covered up. And that's what we're here in Nevada, northern Nevada. We're working on a couple of cases where there has been evidence. There's been evidence tampering or destruction.
Right. Now, is white people getting, or black people, or both? Because there's mainly white people in Nevada, right?
Yeah, the Nevada is predominantly white.
And none of these people have cell phones. They're not video recording it. They're not putting it on YouTube or making a big thing about it.
That is happening slowly but surely. But it is not a you don't want to go around with your a phone in your hand on camera all the time. You want to be free. You don't want to have these things. So they're being, we've got the, that poor kid in Chicago running down, just hopping down the street getting shot 14 times. You see something like that, and you go, wow. And you've got it on tape. Everything's sitting there, and then the cops get exonerated. I don't think that's what happened exactly there. I think they're still in trial. But usually the cops are exonerated. They hadn't had a criminal case against the cops in 35 years that was adjudicated for anyone in the public. And they're supposed to be protecting and serving. That's not supposed. The cop shop is not supposed to be where you get and collect taxes, and that's what it's come down to. The NAACP has declared a travel ban or travel watch in Missouri. Why? Somebody tell me why.
Because it's not safe to be around cops?
In Missouri, no. And I've seen it, and they're mean, evil people. They're not even people. I wouldn't call the cops in Missouri people. So, this is prevalent, and it's rampant, and it's all about racism, 100%. And that's why I kept saying to Ben that this is all about trying to work together. And it's not happening because there's a segment of society that is against their principle, their work ethic, and also the thing that keeps them in their jobs. You have these
what
people
I'm hearing is people good, cops bad. These people are getting pulled over for no reason. They're innocent people.
John, let's ask you a question. I want to ask you a question, John. Do you honestly believe that if a cop kills somebody, that he's not going to get away from it and he's going to go to jail? If a cop wrongfully kills somebody, illegally kills somebody, you think that he's going to go to jail in America? Because
they're going to do. He's going to be pulled off the job. They're going to have to do a full investigation. He has to account for every shot and why he did it. And people are going to pull out their cell phones. He's got his body camera. He's going to have to account for all this stuff. And if it happens a second time, they go through so much stuff. They have to think twice about it. Usually when they are discharging their weapon, it's because they have a split second to decide if they're going to get killed or if they're going to get or not. Now, I'm not saying that they don't sometimes use bad judgment or misjudgment. I use misjudgment all the time. I make mistakes on the job, but no one dies. I don't have to account for it. But I work at the 99er. I can tell you every day there's people ripping off stuff. There's people doing crimes. I had 2 women catfighting a couple of days. We had to call the police.
But before you change the conversation, let me go back on what we're talking about and what you're saying. I'm going back to that number on 2016 when cops killed thousands of people, right? You know what I mean? No cop went to jail, and even this last year, 2017, only 1 cop went to jail for murdering somebody, and that was it. It's that simple. So basically, let's just say about every year, cops kill 1,000 people, and only 1 out of 1,000 cops actually go to jail for murdering somebody. And
right.
The question
is why support
half of those murders, and at least half of those murders, or if not a quarter of those murders, actually go to court and actually show some reasonable proof, wrongdoing. And a lot of people.
To answer your question, I will give the police a pass. And there's only 1 or 2 cases where, example, the case in Phoenix, Arizona, where a guy came out with his girlfriend or whatever, and the police told him they handcuffed her, and then they told him to cross his legs on his knees, put his hands, and basically lie prostrate. So he's totally flat on the ground. His hands are over his head. His feet are crossed. At that point, they should have just handcuffed him, and it was over. Instead, they told him to get up and walk towards him on his knees. He's begging for his